Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 3 of the All of the Above podcast. Today with us is our good friend David Hernly. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Hey, hey, Dave.
Doing good, doing very good.
Awesome. So, we're going to be talking with Dave a bit about how he got what he's doing currently in game design and how he got to that point. Dave is going to be with us for about 20-30 minutes, and then he'll have to go, and we'll continue our regular rambling till the end of the show. So, Dave,
Yes.
when did you get started in game design? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you once saying that you were involved with Ultima in some sort of way.
Uh, I got really involved with the community there, and was never a programmer or anything like that. I was a pre-alpha tester. There were just over 100 of us,
Okay.
um, and the funny thing about the Ultima Online uh, pre-alpha test was it was unintentionally public. um,
Okay.
this is 1996 when most everyone still had modems. Cable modems were
Oh yeah.
just coming around. And the funny thing was, the client for the pre-alpha test was posted publicly on a thing that used to be called the PC release list, and it was 15 megs. And you got to realize, 15 megs back then was a lot.
Ginormous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go see a doubleheader at a movie theater and come back, and you might be done. Uh,
Wow.
depending on where you lived.
You're
Um,
lucky.
yeah, yeah. So I had a fast enough connection where I was able to download it in like 3 hours, um, and I emailed Origin saying I have the client. Can I get a password? They said sure, and that was true of anybody that found out. But again, there were only 100 people, so that tells you it wasn't about popularity. It was that no one could download it.
Wow.
It was just so large back then. But I became very good, lifelong friends with a lot of the developers. Who I still know to today. They've moved on to many other things, either other game companies or other professions. Um, but I ran a website back then that's still available, moongates.com, but it's really more of an archive site of what went on back then than anything else. But it was a love letter to Ultima, and we had the forums essentially for everything going on back then were on moongates.com. We were kind of, for a period of time, working with Origin, we were kind of their community, if you will. Others sprung up very quickly when the beta hit, but in the early days, that was us.
Okay. And how did that translate into you wanting to make games? Because for those of you who don't know, we work for David. He's not a random guest. John and I make 3D models for him and design stuff for the Horizons project. So how
Oh
did
yeah.
how did the oh yeah, you remember now, John?
Yeah, and I'm glad to see at least John's still working. Just saying.
This is your next spaceship. It's called the Moth.
So how did ye old Dave get into game development?
Yeah.
Well, it starts when I was single digits in years. I wrote my first program on a TRS-80 Model 3. Uh,
The
what?
Trash 80.
Yeah, Trash 80. That's right. With a tape drive, man, I was rocking it.
Oh yeah, I had those tape drives with the Commodore.
Yeah. And I wrote my first program on that. Again, certainly not a game or anything, but I had the bug. See what I did there?
Uh-huh.
As for development,
Sick.
back before the 80s dawned, before the age of MTV. Um, and it never really left me. I was a child of the generation, when I was just becoming a teenager. We had like Tron and Blade Runner and all these, sci-fi and futuristic. And Tron was a movie about a programmer that was awesome. He
Yeah.
made it cool kind of thing. So, and my dad was a developer as well. He wrote banking software, which is not, nothing related to games, but that's kind of where the bug hit me in terms of developing in general. And then, as any kid, especially in this age, back then, that when I was growing up, it was the Atari, the Intellivision, later on the ColecoVision, and of course, then the Nintendo creeped in, and then we had kind of the modern age of it was for a long time Nintendo, Sega, and then of course Sony came along, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I dabbled in game design as early as my college years, which was the early '80s through the early '90s. Or sorry, late 80s through the early '90s. Wasn't in college for 10 years.
Okay, so you mean 1880, right?
Yeah. when I still had hair. Yeah, exactly.
I was in college for 10 years.
This is my third sophomore season. I'm no dummy.
Yeah.
So, long story short, as with many people, even today, I dabbled in game design and making games, and had, like many of us, hey, I'm going to make a game someday, and with this, that, and the other. I ended up doing a lot of smaller projects related to aspects of game design, and I ended up writing my first game, which was called Chivalry: Conquest of the Known World, which was a browser-based game in the late '90s, and for certain a few years into this century, and it was not a text-based game, but pretty close. I mean, it was essentially tactical combat where you sent armies across to fight other people, and you battled back and forth, and it was mathematical. It wasn't like you think of today with full graphics and animations and things like that.
It's still online.
Yeah, the website is, yes.
Oh wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I had actually had the genesis of the idea for what became Horizons that we're all working on today, back in the 90s, before I worked on Chivalry, actually. I was a big Star Trek nut, Star Wars as well, but in particular, I was one of those guys that Wrath of Khan really stuck with me, in terms of the starship combat and the tactical aspects of it, and trying to outsmart one another, outsmart your opponent and things like that. And there was a game called M-Trek, which was a Telnet game that you can still play, actually. It's now called J-Trek, though. But it's text only, and it's a multiplayer game. But when I played that, I immediately knew I wanted to be able to take that and translate it into kind of a modern style, with three-dimensional graphics and much, a true, design interface for the consoles, and really kind of go to town. But in the 90s, hypertext was just not what we think of today. It was very, very crude, and it just wasn't really capable. And the machines weren't that great either that would run servers and things.
Totally.
So, and frankly, I wasn't the developer I am today. I was still, learning a lot of things. So I scrapped it. I set it on the shelf and went on to do other things like Chivalry and other projects. And then, like many of us, frankly, a few years ago, I ended up hearing about Artemis, and I played it and enjoyed it, had a good time, but I immediately said, holy crap, man, this is great, but now I got to go dust mine off and put into motion what I wanted to do in the first place. Because what I wanted and what Horizons is really targeted for is more of a simulation, a real deep gameplay experience. So that's what set me off on the course. And I actually, from the day that I played Artemis to the day I had a working modern version of the construct was 8 weeks.
Oh wow.
Wow, dude.
So
I was a man on a mission.
So you basically went like, screw this, I can do this better. Chumps.
That's not fair. That's not nice, sir. But yeah.
Well, to be honest, look, like, I work on the game as well, but not in a like in I'm not a developer. So I can play the game because I don't see it every day as an outsider. Otherwise, like I can see my own models, but I'm not involved in the gameplay. So when I like, I've played Artemis as well, and when I fired up Horizons for the first time a few weeks ago, after 2 years of like building things for the game, and like I was literally blown away, because it was Star Trek. It was that idea of of, oh my god, we're on a bridge and we're gonna play, like we're gonna do this thing and we have to cooperate. So like um ooh, I
Well, you
was
don't have to cooperate. You're just not going to do very well.
yeah, true. No, I was gonna ask something very profound, but then
Oh, then I ruined it.
yeah.
Good job.
No, but like, so you had no like game design experience before that with other than Chivalry, for example.
You mean like with a game company or with like formal
Yeah.
training? Yeah, no, no.
You see, that's quite funny because I really thought, and like, okay guys, so Dave and I have been working for 2 years now, and I've been like thinking that he's like the best programmer in the world. Apparently not. No, just joking.
I'm a good
Good,
shyster.
good enough to fool you.
Yeah, totally. But like, what did you do to get those skills and to get that running? Because like building your own engine is not an easy thing to do.
Well, and I'll give you some background there. I have always been a build my own engine kind of guy, which is to say, um, for Horizons, it has HTML5 content that runs in browsers, right? Instead of using one of probably 30 decent web server plugins you can put into an application, I wrote my own because all of them, while great and good, and there's plenty of good ones out there, they were overblown with way too many features that I just flat out didn't need. It was adding more context and more memory requirements and other things to the game. And I'm like, yeah, no. So I wrote my own. That's just how I've been. Now, in terms of how you acquire game design skills, it's actually a very simple James T. Kirk quote. We learn by doing.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you, in the modern age, for any developer, it's a wonderful time. Google is your friend.
Absolutely.
So many people have put out tutorials on how to deal with shading, and how to deal with atmospheric scattering, and how to deal with reflection mapping, and how to deal with 3D vector, point-to-point calculations and everything. It's a lot of work, and the details can drive you nuts. But the bottom line is that
It's a more friendly environment than it ever was.
oh yeah, you can get what you need. You have to have the drive to do it.
Yeah. So because I know quite a few programmers. I work and live in a very very programmer slash designer heavy environment where everything I do every day is about building games, and I know a lot of programmers who are who love doing databases or interfaces or professional software or stuff like that. But as soon as you go like, hey, how about that physics simulation? They all just shut down and go like, nah, man, I don't want to do that. Did you, because that's very heavy math, and like for example, I love math, so I love doing physics stuff in Unity, for example. How did you deal, because from what I understand you come from a professional software background, how did you deal with the like really really heavy math requirements for making games?
Heavy drinking.
Awesome.
No, look, I don't care how smart you are. Dealing with vector math, especially with forward vectors and forward vectors relative to another ship's forward vector, and the computations necessary for Newtonian travel and everything like that, it will drive you nuts. And there's no magic wand. I mean, there's game engines out there that'll let you do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And do it kind of built in. And again, that's not, I'm building an engine, so I'm building everything from scratch to suit the behavior and the needs of the games that we built.
That's even harder.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something about doing it that way. It's harder, but it's also, it yields better results. And let me explain.
Please explain.
Yeah, it is that in the end, there's a great quote by Alan Kay. Alan Kay was one of the brain children of, futurist, if you will, of the 70s and 80s. He was the guy that thought up that you're going to have computers that fold like briefcases. He's talking about this in the 70s, and he's talking about laptops, and everybody's like, yeah, right, whatever. He called all that stuff, but he made a great comment, and he said that he was talking about hardware, but it applies to engines. And what he said was, people that love software, build their own hardware. People that love game design or application design build their own engines, software engines, whether it's in our case the Hydra engine, which powers Horizons. And the reason you do that is you're making the game that much more powerful, that much more stable. The engine is built specifically for your needs,
Optimized.
Yes, and that's just it. There's some wonderful engines. Unity is a great engine to play with, and there have been some good titles that have come out of the Unity engine. It's great. I'm not knocking Unity at all, but I will say this is that trying to put an architecture in Unity, and no, I'm not knocking Unity. It's just that you're adding something to Unity where Unity's got a ton of stuff that you will never use, but it's in there anyway. So you've got a lot of fluff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of aspects of its game engine that it's there because they're trying to build a game engine that can handle anything. Well, we don't need to do that. We need to build a game engine that handles our game and our game architecture. So no different than the web server thing, building, I have a 28K web server that handles everything.
Wow.
And it doesn't do a lot of the other stuff that a full-blown, internet information server by Microsoft will do. Not even close. But it doesn't need to. That's the point. You build what you need. So it's kind of like, I'll give you a different metaphor. Is how like carpenters will constantly take time to build what they call jigs.
Yeah.
So they can quickly, slap out a pattern on a piece of wood repeatedly, right? Well, that's essentially what I see that for game developers or developers in general. That's what we do. We build our own jig. If you build your own jigs, you're going to get better results.
Totally, absolutely,
man.
So now, we're building Horizons right now, obviously. You like, what do you see doing after Horizons? Because I'm not seeing Horizons being done in the next like 2 years, like completely done.
Well, the engine won't be done. Hydra will continue on as an engine platform. I actually can tell you, I already know what my plans are after Horizons. The Horizons is the first game on the Hydra engine, the Hydra Vessel Command Simulator engine.
Yes.
And then the second game will be one of the two genres. Will either be, a mechanized, a battle mechanized type thing, kind of like a BattleTech genre, where instead of a crew of 5 or 6, you've got a crew of 1, but people can take tablets and create their own home cockpits, kind of like the Tesla battle pods that have made the rounds, and go into that more of a genre. Or we're going to go backwards in time and do more of a hunter-killer submarine, a U-boat versus a destroyer.
Wow.
Harkening back to like Harpoon territory.
Yeah, Harpoon, Gato, all those, man. Yeah.
Yep. Oh wow, that's. Oh dear, that's quite complicated because like I'm playing World of Warships right now, and I won't pretend to know anything about warships. But just from playing that game for a little while, I'd love to make a submarine simulator.
Well, the funny thing is the architecture of Hydra lends itself to a sub more than almost anything, because a sub, you have a periscope, and that's your only view of the outside world. That's your only 3-dimensional rendering other than a sonar, which is more of a true, technical mesh, which is a 3D sonographic reading. But everything else is instruments, everything. Mm-hmm. So it's you're heavy on instruments. That's all you have to rely on with it when it comes to a sub, and that's the kind of stuff that it's kind of the engine's built for that. That's why I'm kind of like we want to do a couple different genres. But I'm going to tell you right now, actually, I have a whole different genre and a whole new engine that we'll be building once we've gotten a few titles out.
Right.
Oh
From
wow.
Hydra. Oh no, I have no shortage of plans, sir. I have a
So,
whole shelf.
but this is
We
amazing.
applaud.
though.
We applaud the ambition. We applaud the
Oh,
ambition.
we'll stick with the ambition if we have the chance. But like this is quite awesome because, for example, I have plans, and one of my plans was for at some point to make a game that is like freelancer. I know that a lot of people think that Wing Commander is the best game that Chris Roberts ever made, but I think it's Freelancer. I think
It's freelancer. It's freelancer.
Oh,
Yeah.
phew, thank God. I'm in good company here.
Before freelancer, it was privateer, which was the spiritual father of freelancer.
Yeah, totally. So, like, I've always wanted to do a game like Freelancer, but then better, like Freelancer 2.0.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's Chris Roberts will tell you that's what Star Citizen is. I disagree.
Yeah, but like, are we gonna get into the Chris Roberts discussion?
You brought it up, man.
No, we can like, if you have time, we can do that for a short time while. So, here's the problem that I have with Star Citizen. Star Citizen is being marketed as this open world that like reacts to everything and is like super organic and bullshit like that. Do you guys think that there is like that the future of gaming will be the, oh my god, it's an open world thing and you can do whatever you want, or will there still be like this exclusive space for heavily story driven cinematic experiences? Because
It's
what
obviously going to be both.
Yeah, John's got it right. It's both because I mean that's what Skyrim is. Skyrim is heavy story, but it's an open world.
Yeah,
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to blow your mind.
please do.
That's been true for 30 years, and you can thank Ultima for that.
Yeah, I was Ultima Wizardry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm only 24 and I only started gaming in like 99.
Okay, we'll talk slower.
This is the part of the broadcast where we age date Alex and
I'm
drop
sorry.
names of obscure titles from the distant past that he only knows as legend.
So, I mean, like Ultima 7, which is widely regarded as kind of the pinnacle
Yes.
of the Ultima series, and its add-ons, Ultima, the Black, and Ultima Part 2, and all that kind of stuff, Ultima 7 Part 2. In Ultima 7, you could actually, you have a lot of games now where you can do you can do crafting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They can thank Ultima for that. Ultima 7, which is more than 20 years old now, you could go out into the field, grab some wheat from a wheat field, grind it,
Oh wow.
get some flour, get all the ingredients you need for bread, grind it together, put it in an oven, and it would come out as bread. I mean, and that's, there's plenty of games that do it now, but they did that first, where you can combine ingredients in the right manner with the right conditions, heat, etc., and create your own food, things like that. So I will tell you, it's interesting now that I've been around gaming now for 4 decades.
Who's being dated now?
Yeah. Oh no, I have a card.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a card. I'm dated from long ago. I dated myself when I said Atari and television, Alex. I think they've got that covered. But it's interesting to see games, themes, game ideas, game design ideas, structures repeat themselves, and a whole new generation see it as revolutionary. When I've seen it twice before, that kind of thing, and that's not any smacking of the younger generation, things like that. It's just it shows you how the industry is cyclical.
It's quite interesting though, because this week I was back at school because I had to redo some classes, but I had to sit in one of the first year's classes, And the question was asked by the teacher, what's your favorite game? And the games that were named were things like Call of Duty and Destiny, and some kids named Skyrim.
Bullshit.
No, okay, but listen. So I was sitting there together with a friend of mine who was the same age as me, and I was like, holy shit, those guys are like noobs, like get on our level. Whereas you guys are sitting like, God, Alex, like get on our level. And the funny thing is, what you said about repeating trends, the same thing happens in everything. Like fashion, for example, like we're getting, like, everybody's wearing full beards all of a sudden. Like we're getting back to like the 1920s, or
We're dangerously coming back around to the 80s where we're gonna have big hair, so be careful.
Oh God. Please not. No, but so what are these trends exactly that you're seeing a lot?
It's not any one thing, Alex. It's just you'll have the trend could even be like a genre, for example. Like the early 90s, from like 91 to like 94, 95, it was the science fiction fighter genre. X-Wing, Wing Commander, Elite was it Elite Dangerous?
No, it was Elite Frontier.
Elite Frontier.
See, I know that shit.
And there were a bunch of knockoffs too, and then you had TIE Fighter, and then X-Wing versus and the Wing Commanders went on and on and on. You had Mark Hamill doing playing Christopher Blair and all this. I mean, it was just big deal. And then it fizzled out. Now it's kind of back. I mean, we're doing Horizons, Artemis is out there, Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous, etc. And we're 20 years later.
Yeah.
See? But I mean, 10 years ago, tell me one space sim that existed 10 years ago that was new at the time.
Dark Star 1.
Okay, you named one. You get a scratch.
Homeworld.
No, I mean the fighter genre.
Yeah, Dark Star 1.
Okay,
that was released in 2004, and it was pure crap. It tried to be what Freelancer was.
Okay, I meant good. Sorry.
Oh.
Let me rephrase.
No, because I distinctly remember playing that game and being like, why? Why did you make such a shit game? I wanted Freelancer 2.0.
And I'll add an addendum to my cyclical rule, which is, in order for a genre or a theme or a play style to reemerge, it has to be good. I mean, and all joking aside, the FPSs have been strong and hard for a while now, but and this is the 40-plus-year-old guy talking, but I remember Destiny was going to be the next coming of Halo. It was going to be this amazing thing, and it was going to be amazing. And then, it hit the scene, and it was a big deal for a couple of weeks, and you don't hear about it anymore.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
What's happening now is most games and there's plenty of good ones out there. They're kind of hot for a week or two, and then people just like stick it on the shelf, and they wait for the next release of something else.
Yeah. So another thing that I like coming off from that is, back in the day when you had like ZX Spectrums and all those kind of little gray boxes that could do computing, people programmed their own games and sold them. The funny thing is that same thing is happening right now with the like new indie scene, which is not new at all.
Well, it's not even. That's really an effect of information, which is to say, the ease of distributing a game now is not. The internet is a wonderful tool.
Yeah,
and it has enabled a lot of different commercial aspects to emerge and have whether it's making a game or selling a product or whatever it is. The internet has been a wonderful tool for that.
I think it's also the hardware. We got the mobile platforms now, which are basically, let's take 10, 20-year-old hardware and force people to carry it in their pockets, which makes them want to play games that are 10, 20 years old. Again, because that's what that device can handle.
Well,
now the modern devices are pretty hardcore.
They're better than that. I'm being
you're being generalist.
Okay.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, sure. You can have that one.
I like my Oregon Trail. Back off.
I,
That's fine.
I have a flip phone, so that should tell you where I stand in relation to smartphones.
You can play
Yeah.
Tetris. That's cool.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I can't. I really
wow.
can't.
Come to us in the future. We have lots of shiny things to offer you.
No, no. My monitors are stationary, and when I'm out in the world, I don't need one. Anyway,
No, but like uh, the new indie scene, apart from information being easy to distribute and games being easy to distribute and being easy to develop these days, how how is the whole publishers bending everybody over and doing really nasty things to their behinds according to money thing play into
Well,
this?
I mean, things like Steam have made that disappear. I mean, yeah, Steam gets their money off of you selling your product, but they don't tell you what to do. It's a distribution method. So is Good Old Games. Although Good Old Games is about
No, no,
retro.
I'm talking about stuff like Origin or EA's awful sales practices and stuff like that.
Well, that's only if you've been bought by EA, frankly. Well, and speaking of Origin Systems, okay, which made it Ultima, that was
Yeah,
Richard Garriott's company, was dismantled along with most of the other original companies in the late '90s, early aughts, where EA wanted to brand themselves as EA only, and there's no personality. Um, so yeah, if you were absorbed by EA specifically, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Is it was kind of the overlord saying we're going to do it this way. Programmers don't matter, blah blah blah, and
yeah,
that's
because I remember distinctly when Freelancer was released. It was like there were five different studio title like animations before that game started, and nowadays it's just like, oh, EA, okay, we're done. How did that happen? Because I missed that whole thing about the industry.
you mean early you mean that. And actually, I mean, like for Wing Commander, it was really just um, that one suffered because not quite the same parallel there because with like Wing Commander, it had a bunch of names, but what it was EA, it was EA, but it was also Origin.
Yeah,
But then they had their engine that they built, the Origin Effects engine. Then they had the memories, the Voodoo memory system, and so that was Origin with all their branding inside their own company
yeah,
outside of EA. And you had the conductor and that whole very long opening. Yes, I remember it well.
yeah. But how did it happen? So like all of those names and brands were all absorbed into giant companies.
uh, by the yeah, and it was a trendy thing for a while because EA was a cool place to work for a while. And what I mean by that is like and I'm not speaking for Richard. I'm if he was on here, I'm sure he could give you better detail. But
We'd love to, Richard, if you're watching, like we'd love to have you on the
but
podcast.
but I mean the early days of Origins being acquired by EA, they were essentially still their own studio. Um, they were very much essentially funded by EA, and EA was kind of on the box. But if you look at the Ultima 7, they were an EA company then, and it's just kind of casually mentioned at the bottom of the box. All the other branding is Origin. The giant logo on the
Yeah,
box is Origin. And so their EA's attitude is, we'll get the money for it. They get the branding, they get the notoriety, and so they were promoting these brands, and whether it was Origins or Bullfrog or, and I'm easily forgetting the others, but Bullfrog
Anvil
had,
Software, Raven Software.
but Bullfrog had like Populous and Syndicate and
Yeah,
all those great titles of that age, and so ultimately, um, in that age, it was a good thing. And so what happened was a lot of people did sell to EA because it said, hey, we'll have extra money, but they'll leave us alone. We can make these great titles. And for a while, it worked. It really did work. Um, but then there was a shift, and I can't tell you when that shift occurred and what the cause was internally, but
Well,
EA changed their their mind.
I have a guess because they're in 20 miles from me. There was an EA studio, and I had friends that worked there, this is would have been in the mid to late 90s, and then at some point EA decided that it was gonna, and they were game developers. They were like customer service people. There was a call center there
Okay.
for support. EA put it all overseas and closed even the development. So there was sort of an economy of scale globalism thing, I think, happened in the mid to late 90s. Then that's when EA turned evil. It kind of caught me by surprise because EA was like everything I used on a Commodore 64 when I was a kid was EA.
Deluxe Paint.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, because I remember the same thing about like seeing the Ubisoft logo and go like, that's gonna be a good game, or seeing the EA logo and go like, EA makes good games. And nowadays I don't buy games anymore at all. I build them.
But that was the paradigm shift ultimately, is that when they decided they did not want these individual studios doing their own thing and they wanted it to be EA pure. And I can actually, you know what? Now, while we're sitting here talking, I know what the catalyst was. Frankly, it was Madden.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by the success of Madden, which was a purely EA product, top to bottom, it was their own product. It wasn't a sub studio or anything. The success of Madden gave them a lot of cash and this vision that, hey, we can just do it ourselves. And I'm oversimplifying, of course, but that certainly was a player.
Yeah, so because that's really weird. Because in Europe, Madden isn't a thing. Like, I heard of Madden last year, and I was like, "What? They play games about that over there? Like, are they stupid?" Like FIFA is a great success over here. Like everyone plays FIFA.
Well, and FIFA is or at least the EA version of it is again a purely EA title.
Yeah. Well, that's
so,
yeah.
Yeah, and I hate to. I have a couple more minutes, and unfortunately, I have to jump off for tonight's podcast.
Don't worry about it. We'll have you on again sometime later.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Whenever you need to go, man.
And don't threaten me.
We're not gonna threaten
you. Get
you.
out of here.
Don't worry about it. No, run if you have to run. We'll talk about some designer stuff, and then we'll close off the podcast.
All right, guys.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna step on out. I'm sure I will be talking some more in the future. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Okay. Bye. There we go.
That was great.
Yeah. Now that we got rid of him, we can talk about designer stuff. So,
you want to show what have you made this week?
I haven't made anything. Well, I've made a company this week. I set up my own company. Yay!
All right, that's right. You're being a wheeler dealer. See that's what happens. You're going to go into production and art design, and you're not going to get your hands dirty anymore. And I'm going to mock you.
Nah, that's not gonna happen. So, like, for any of you who wants to like hire me, it's not gonna be anyone. Here's my website. There's some stuff on there. Go check it out. It's actually I'm quite proud of it. It's my first website ever.
Alex likes to eat.
Yeah, I love to eat. No, but I was busy doing a lot of banking stuff and tax stuff and just a lot of general setup for having a company, and then didn't really have time to do anything else, which is kind of a bummer. I almost got a deal for a lot of money, which then fell flat. So I don't have anything to talk about, but I know that you've been super busy this week. Like, my Facebook feed has been exploding.
Everybody's sick of me. Like, that guy, he's an overachiever. I'm not gonna talk to him anymore. He works too hard.
Can I ask you to pull up the Tywin Lannister you made? Because that thing's insane.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I've
So,
got the ZBrush, of course, but I'm more proud of the Photoshop compositing.
oh, show
Of
us.
course, I don't remember what I did with it. John. I put it in a very special, makes sense place. Many things. Process. Probably was this one. Well, there's one level of it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So, yeah, I've got, there's a photo buried under there. There's a ZBrush render. Um, and here's another version. Yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
close to the
that's the one.
final. Yeah, that's the final.
That's bonkers, dude.
Lots of
That's
trickery, lots of cheating.
doesn't matter. Put that on your portfolio and go like, yeah, I ZBrush the whole thing. No, that's really, really great.
Thank you, sir.
I'm
Yeah.
so jelly of you actually being able to do faces properly. Like,
It's been a long haul, man. It's like 5 years.
yeah, I've been drawing for almost 15 years now, and I can't do faces. I avoid faces wherever I can.
Um, it's anatomy and structure, and I can't draw. I can draw if I'm looking at somebody,
Yeah, I can
but
do that too.
not. I can't draw to that quality. I mean, that's because that's 2 days of sculpting.
Yeah,
That's how it gets good. Good. I mean, if somebody that's better than me can do that in a couple of hours, literally. Like my professor when I was in school, literally could have done that in 2 hours.
damn.
I've watched him do that.
You know, so this goes really neatly into what I wanted to talk about this week. Like, I'm a member of a lot of Facebook groups. I'm a member of 10,000 Hours Artcore. I'm a member of some 3D modeler groups, and this week someone posted in art or in 10,000 hours, and she was like, guys, what do you do when you have a creative block? And that's what I wanted to talk about, because in the last 4 years that I've been doing game art and game assets, I haven't had a creative block. I've always been able to push through or ask people for advice on what to do, and like ask for ideas, and like that way, like I've never stood still for more than 10 minutes on a problem and then just let time take over and see if time solves it. How are you on that? Like, what do you
Uh,
think about that?
I go through manic phases of several months where I work my butt off, and then I might take a month or so off. Uh, that seems to be my pattern. But yeah, I mean, because I'm so much older than you, I've been through the droughts. I've been through year-long droughts in terms of
Really?
creativity. Yeah, and spun out of it. I went through when I was first fresh out of fine art school. I was on fire, man. Whoa. I was making shit like a maniac. And then suddenly I wasn't in school anymore, and it all just crashed. And I was like working stupid jobs and realizing none of this was going to pay off. And, there's inevitable depression, and just, I think it took me 10 years to get the magic back.
Wow, that's insane. Because like depression is something that really, really stifles creativity. This
I
past
think it's, yeah, I think it's the only thing that does.
hmm, the only thing.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think if you have a creative block, it's really just related to how you feel, your mood, and how you feel about yourself more so than anything. And believe me, I still go through it. Um, Particularly when you look at the internet and look at how good everybody is, it's like, holy shit, I'm never going to get there.
You know, like we're gonna get to that point next.
Okay.
The 10,000 hours point. Um, but that was quite Like I get what you're saying about like the state you're feeling, because now that I think about it, I haven't tried doing art while being depressed. And I think that the next time that something happens to me that's really nasty, which is, let's be honest, it's inevitably gonna happen.
Sure, yeah.
Like, remind me to do art,
Okay.
because I'm really curious to see what happens when someone is super depressed and does art.
It just doesn't work, man. It just doesn't flow. I that's my experience anyway. I don't.
Hmm. But is it different for production art than for personal expression? Do you think?
Oh.
Because
Well, if you
because I'm
have to
talking.
go in and do it because it's your job, maybe you can overcome it. I don't know. I haven't really had that experience.
Yeah, because I'm talking from the professional. I have to go and do art side, and I
Mhm.
haven't. When I go to work, I haven't been unable um, to be creative for the past 4 years. Like when I go to the studio, I always just sit down and I'm like, okay, let's go, and I just do art. It's just like bleh, and art
Yeah.
happens.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I've never thought of it in a personal kind of way.
I,
Because this comes up uh, from a friend who shall not be named, who's a writer, who's trying to be a writer, and he like I read his draft, which you have to still do, by the way. I read his draft and I was like, dude, this is totally amazing. Can you write more? And his answer was, I'm not gonna be pressured in writing more stuff. It's like whenever the magic flows, man.
uh,
Not in that hippie way, of course, but and that got me thinking of like, is that like, can you force art?
uh,
Hmm.
there's an economy, I think, of the magic. You know, honestly, this week I did not want to keep working the last few days, but I'm forcing myself to.
And how is that?
And
How is that working?
I can do more. I think what I ended up doing is this bug thing, which is a lot of technical details. So I don't really have to be in a good mood to do the technical details.
Hmm.
And now I'm starting to feel good about it. So, you know,
So, well, that may be a good piece of advice for people who are stuck in an art block. Like, don't don't try to be creative. Try to be useful, I guess, or
yeah,
productive.
like if you're a writer, do your bloody editing. Correct your damn punctuation.
Hmm.
And then you're in front of your piece and who knows what might happen.
Yeah.
You might get in a better mood and, write a paragraph or two. Um, but yeah, I used to tell this to my students: you have to stay in the ring. If
Yeah.
you want to be a champion boxer, you got to get in the ring and stand up. And when you get knocked down, you got to stand up, and you just got to keep doing that, no matter whether you're getting your butt kicked or not. You got to stay in the ring, or keep getting back in the ring.
Yeah.
So
Well, I hope that people have some use for this, because I've been wanting to talk about this for like 2 weeks now, and I haven't got the chance.
cool.
Yeah, because it was really bothering me because of all these people around me are like, oh, I can't do creative stuff. I'm so blocked right now.
I
Okay,
think a lot of that is just it's whining and it's an excuse, and I don't have any use for it. But that said, I do understand it because I've been there myself.
so
Um,
here's the biggest piece of advice for everyone: don't be a bitch
yeah,
and
yeah.
fucking do your art.
Back in the damn ring and keep swinging. Don't be a loser. Yeah.
Awesome. So another thing that I was thinking about is this came up in I think our conversation with Alonso, or it might have been after the podcast when we still kept talking. Um, VR and 3D.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. Ever since I put on an Oculus, and ever since I've been like, oh my god, I wanna have this thing. The only thing I wanted to have an Oculus for was not playing games. Is I wanted to have it so that I can simulate 8 desktops and have my 3D objects be rendered in full 3D. And I'm bringing this up because of this article thing, this video that I'm gonna pull up now on Wired.com. Sorry, Wired.co.uk, and it's about Watch Disney's Glen Kane drawing sculptures in virtual reality. And this guy is a Disney animator god. I know you can't see this, John, but I'm pretty sure you've seen the
I've
video.
watched. Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah, yeah.
So they show him waving around this wand and creating drawings in 3-dimensional space. Now, I think the drawing part is completely stupid. Like, why would you ever draw in 3D? You can just make a 3D model.
I'm in complete agreement there.
Yeah, but how do you think of this for like actual 3D modeling?
I just don't agree with it at all. I think body mechanics will make it not feasible because you need
but
you
I'm
need
not...
haptics and you need to stabilize your body using correct body
I'm not
mechanics.
talking about using your body. I'm talking about using a mouse or a keyboard, but just having the VR display. That's what I'm talking about. Just having the like simulated 8 desktops with Maya or ZBrush, and then
I got what you're saying. I hadn't considered that. I haven't had the Oculus experience yet. It seems like it would be pretty cool. I also know that I tend to want to check out of my screen reality pretty frequently. And so I'd be taking the bloody thing on and off constantly. And that would get rather tiresome.
Okay. So, that's a thing that I hadn't thought of, because I was just thinking, this is great, I'm gonna have this thing and it's all gonna be 3D, and when I rotate an object, it's really gonna be in front of me. But I hadn't thought about that as a, like, out of habit, I like stand up from my chair about once every 20 minutes to walk around.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you suddenly have to take all your gear off, like someone like me that wears glasses,
Or me. I
yeah,
don't
and
have
then
glasses on
take
right now.
take it off, find my glasses, put my glasses on, find my drink, take my glasses off, put the Oculus back on. Oh my God.
But what if you had the like endless desktop space? Because that's the problem I'm running into now. I'm running 4 monitors. That's 3 monitors including a tablet. And I'm still going like, God, I wish I had 2 extra monitors.
Right, right. Well, that would be cool. I mean, it might be a trade-off though. I'd have to experience it, I guess, personally. I wonder what's really matters is not will artists adopt it, but will the public at large adopt it in for business, whether or not it'll really get the type of money and innovation required to really make it ubiquitous and actually improve and become the real platform of the future. Yeah.
I see what I hear what you're saying, and I disagree. Because like as professionals, because that's what we are, like we are past the point of prosumer. Like we're way past the point of consumer. But as professionals, how like those technologies can be exclusive to us, and we don't have to care about the general public.
Well, but how long has the Wacom Tank's been out, and the price point basically hasn't fallen at all?
No, of course not, because no one ever. no one has the processing power to run those things. Like a normal PC that runs Photoshop crashes. I mean, like, I'm not talking about gamers who have a PC that runs Photoshop. I'm talking about your mom and dad's, like, crappy old 8-year-old PC that still, like, barely plays YouTube,
Yeah.
doesn't run Photoshop properly or a Cintiq. And let's be honest, everybody who runs, like, the majority of people who run Photoshop are photographers.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, but I just can't bring up any respect for photographers. But like, we're a very small group of people who do concept art and like sculpting that need a Cintiq tablet.
So the people that are using Oculus type VR in term for actual production are going to be even smaller.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering. So like, you're ZBrushing now. What if you could like ZBrush in 3D?
That's the advantage.
It's 3D. I know that you haven't had an Oculus on your face before, but trust me, it's fucking amazing.
I've had you know, glasses, 3D programs so I could put glasses on
Yeah.
and see it in 3D, and you know, I don't use it
Hmm.
because I don't need it, and it's a pain.
Hmm.
I'm definitely going to play some damn games on the Oculus, but I just can't see it as a production environment until it just gets way better, way easier. Uh, you know, almost to the point of where it's actually like biologically, cybernetically implemented.
You'll be dead by that point, mate.
No, no, I'm gonna live forever. Blood transfusions, just like Keith Richards, man. New heart every 15 minutes, like Dick Cheney. Yeah, man.
Wow.
Don't ask me where the money's coming from. I don't know.
That sounds great though, living forever.
Actually, it sounds really, really scary.
Why?
Uh, Humans, I think, when they try to live forever, get progressively eviler and eviler. But
But what
this goes into almost like theological matters for me.
I hear you, but what if living forever? So this thing about like our health system getting better and like everybody getting medicine and stuff. What if at some point we don't get older anymore? What if at some point we just go like, okay, I'm fine at 24, freeze me here, you know?
Well, I
Um,
got a reality check for you. We won't be able to continue having the capitalist, expansionist economic system we currently have because we would need like 18 more planets.
oh, pff, I know. I'm just talking purely out of principle.
Well, so I'm like, how does it ever get here? Like, reality wise, that's why I have a response to it as it being evil, because it's always going to be, while we have our current system and we're on this current planet and we're not able to get off in any real way, it's always going to be about, I'm super rich elite and I'm living forever, and look at the
Hmm.
poor pathetic masses, and I'm sure glad I'm not one of those, and it's a good thing I was born a smart white person. You know, there's inherent
That turned real
racism built
dark
into
real
the.
quick.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I take things to the logical extremes. You know, that's how I.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. I understand.
I'm not a utopianist. You know, we've had the Star Trek discussion. It's just like it. I don't see how it ever gets there. I just don't see it how it ever gets there.
Well, it's nice to dream, though. I mean, it's
Oh, we like our illusions, don't we? Yes, we like our
yeah.
illusions.
I mean, But that's why I became an artist. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, because
Oh, okay.
let,
Well, that's
let's
very interesting.
let's
Huh.
let's bring it back to artist stuff. The reason why I became a game designer is because I couldn't go to space. And I don't
Mm.
mean going to space as in being an astronaut. I mean going to space in your own Millennium Falcon and just flying around and like being there, you know? Just like being a citizen of space.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that I could ever come close to that going to space that I want to that future that I want to live in is by designing a game that does that. I'm very lucky that I'm working on the Horizons thing because that's as close as it's gonna
Yeah, you
get, you
shared.
know?
Dave shares a similar dream for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Um, but that kind of idealist thing of wanting to live in Star Trek or wanting to live in wanting to be like a dude from Star Wars, obviously not in the middle of a war being shot up because that's what everybody in the comments gonna say. Um, I can just like read the comments now, going like, yeah,
Preempt the haters. Preempt the
yeah.
haters.
No, but that was my reason for becoming an artist and going like, yeah, that's I wanna create I wanna make my dreams come true in a way that's possible with today's technology.
Hmm.
And I'm no Elon Musk, so that sucks.
Yeah. Huh. I don't. I guess I never thought of it in that way. I think maybe I have the same escapism, but I've never articulated it like that. Um, I like both sci-fi and fantasy. Where are you in relation to fantasy?
Oh, I love fantasy. I love both. In a sense that I love fantasy for its really heroic aspect. Like we talked about how you hate David Gemmell's books and how I love them. It's the
Mhm.
heroic fantasy aspect that I really like. The really awesome hero goes to a place and does really awesome stuff. And I like the concept of magic. But for me, fantasy is kind of like stops being interesting at the point where it's like, oh, how did they escape? Oh, it's magic, you know. Um, whereas
Well,
yeah,
that's just bad fantasy.
true, but a lot of fantasy is like that. Um,
Absolutely, it is.
whereas sci-fi kind of brings that. Yes, but you know the photon reactor in your ship doesn't really work that way. Kind of neckbeard douchebags with it. So
Mm,
people do watch out about what they're saying, you know? Hmm.
yeah, as a genre, generally, science fiction maybe does a better job of being more plausible
Yeah.
and simulationist, but not always. I mean, the what is it the Honor Harrington series, the ones that are basically clones of Star Trek
Yeah.
and Star Wars, basically are fantasy. They just happen to be in space.
Star
Uh,
Wars Star Wars is fantasy, let's be honest. Like there's
sure,
nothing there's nothing there's nothing
but it knows it
sciency.
is. But it knows it
Yeah.
is from the
But
very beginning.
there's
You know,
nothing sciency about Star Wars.
once upon a time in a galaxy far,
Yeah.
far away. Yeah, yeah.
Um but I guess for me, like the whole art and the whole game design and the whole 3D aspect is just escapism.
Mm.
And now that I actually think about it, ever since I've been making stuff, it's been just escapism. And I've just been one of the lucky few who can make that prolific dream state into a job, you know? Because
Interesting.
like I don't know if you suffer from this. I don't know if I should call it suffering, but I am unable to walk outside or like be anywhere without constantly like um making up stories in my head. Like my head is constantly running through every scenario around me, or like for example, tomorrow I'm gonna see a nice girl's gonna come over, and like it's gonna be cool and stuff. But at the same time, my brain is was like, what if, like, just what if, like, a meteor falls next to your house and like you have to save her and be like heroic and shit. Like that would suck on one side, but on the other side, you'd be set for life because she'd owe you her life. That like it's like a Wookiee life debt that she'd have on you. You'd be done. Like, you see, that's what my brain does all the time. And I'm like, brain, shut the fuck up. And then I put really heavy, like, awful metal in my ears, and then it's silent for a few moments. So, yeah. Everybody that, like, knows that I listen to metal, and sometimes they're like, dude, how can you listen to such dark music? And I'm like, I don't know, it's the only thing that keeps my head from going crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then art is the other thing that can keep my brain silent.
Right, right. Because you can get into a flow state and
Yeah,
just yeah.
yeah. Because when I intentionally avoid the news, um, and for example, the whole Syrian crisis thing is going on now. I have been following that because it's kind of important, but when I heard about the Syrian crisis, my brain went like, what would it be like to be on one of those boats? And then horrific images just flood my brain, with like
Yeah, yeah.
dysentery and death and like people hating each other and like fighting over an orange, and I'm like, shut up brain, like plug in heavy metal, and then it's fine.
Hmm.
Um but yeah. So that's why I try to force my brain into thinking of, I would like to be a captain on a starship. Shut up, Syrian refugees. I'm now a captain on a starship. You know?
Interesting. Well, I think it's cool that you're more in touch with that escapism, because I can definitely admit to myself that involvement in this sort of thing is escapism. You know, it's not fine art. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not
No.
like solving cancer or creating world peace or changing minds
You will
or any of the
never
doing
hear
any of
me.
those.
Yeah. You'll
Um,
never hear me say that I'm a proper artist. I cheat like crazy.
um,
Yes.
I don't know where I feel about. I don't know where I am about the escapism element. You've played Civ back in the day, right?
Yeah.
You know how you have your population control,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like scientists and workers, and
Yeah.
then you have unhappy people.
Yeah.
And when you get too many unhappy people, then there's a riot.
Yeah.
But then there's that little feature where you can click on the unhappy people and turn them into entertainers. Did you ever do that?
No. I don't remember that.
Well, it's a feature where you click on the unhappy person, make them an entertainer, which actually, if I remember correctly, gets rid of another unhappy person.
Okay.
Problem is it's costing you money and production in the city. The more you do that,
Okay.
but that's basically what we are. We're entertainers.
Yeah. And that's exactly where I wanted to go with this. Awesome segue. Because I I thought about this long and hard, because I went into this and I was like, I'm gonna be an artist and I'm gonna be like really good and I'm gonna know all the principles. And nowadays I'm like, I don't know how to draw faces. Download face model from internet, render face model. That looks kind of okay. Like blob some things over it.
Uh huh.
And then I thought of like, what is my function then? Like if I'm not an artist, if I'm not here to create proper art and to be to like be inspiring to people or anything. And I was like, it's to be an entertainer. It's to tell stories. And then when I thought to myself to tell stories, then it hit me because that's exactly what we're doing. With every object that we make, we tell stories.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
And in something intrinsically human and probably actually more important than what fine art has become, because fine art used to be narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it there wasn't a Bible story in it. It wasn't getting made.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So if you take okay, so if you take the narrative as a criteria for fine art, yeah,
Okay.
and if you like retroactively apply that to stuff like games and movies, wouldn't those then become fine art? Because if you think about it, a game is a bajillion times more difficult to make than a painting.
Sure. I have no problem with it being art. Um, just most of them aren't really aiming that particularly high. You know what I mean?
But would something like The Witcher 3 be considered art?
Uh,
Because it's stunning to look at this point in time. It's like mind-blowingly beautiful. The narrative is amazing. The characters are amazing, and like the whole game is just so emotionally laden. Wouldn't that be a piece of like really fine art?
sure, it has the potential to be. I'm not completely sold on it. I mean, I'm playing it, but I'm not. It hasn't sucked me in like, say, quite a few other things have. Um, Riven,
Riven?
the Riven, you remember Mist?
Oh god, vaguely.
Okay, so Riven was like several years later, maybe the sequel to it.
Yeah.
Um, I would consider that probably the first video game I played that was actually art. It had a fantastic narrative. The graphics were amazing for the time period, uh, and it really made you feel something when you played it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, sure. Um,
I think that's a really good point to end on
okay,
because we've been going for over an hour.
yeah.
Let's say that some video games can be considered art. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. Well, art used to just mean anything humans did. So I got no problem calling it all art. I'm just I'm reserving judgment to say what's good art or not.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There is a thing that a lot of people say, and it's like, I don't know much about art, but I know what I like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody, like fine art specialists or like I don't know, snobbish people think that that's a really like empty statement, but I think that that's the most profound statement you can make about art, and that is that art is like the way we communicate about our culture and the way we participate in our culture, and you liking or disliking art is your participation in that.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
that's
Um,
awesome. Let's do this again next week, and
okay.
we'll have more topics because we've been going for over an hour right now, and it's 2 o'clock here, and I need to get to sleep.
All right. All right.
So,
Sweet dreams, man.
thank
Good.
you very much, guys. Let me switch to my camera. Boop. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.